Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the Skitarii and the Adeptus Mechanicus as we get into Forge Worlds. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day, and if you have any suggestions, please comment down below. Now, if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on Forge Worlds. A Forge World is a planet that is directly controlled by the Adeptus Mechanicus and is completely dedicated to the manufacturing of the various machines and devices of the Imperium, the pursuit and preservation of the scientific and technical knowledge of humanity, and the worship of the machine god. Because the Adeptus Mechanicus has a monopoly of the ancient technological knowledge and expertise in Imperial culture, the Forge Worlds are the Imperium's primary source of all kinds of hardware, from farming equipment to the war machines such as starships, tanks, aerospace fighters, or even titans. Much of a Forge World is an immense factory. It is completely covered in massive factory complexes that stretch across the horizon. Its ecosystem has been completely destroyed. The air is saturated with toxic gases and rivers flow with toxic runoff from the multitude of manufactorums. In many cases, even seas and oceans have been purposefully evaporated to make room for more manufactorums. Life on a Forge World is harsh, even by Imperial standards. The tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus quantify and measure every child born in their domain to best find their use and how they might serve the Omnissiah's great pattern. The most promising are inducted into the ministries of the machine god, destined in time to find their place among the ranks of the priesthood. Of the rest, a percentage of the most physically able are subjected to the trials required to become a cybernetic Skitarii warrior, and other more secretive castes. For the majority, however, there is a place, willing or not, within the Forge World's vast webs of production. These menials, often referred to as labor units, are free to make what lives they can for themselves in conditions largely no different from those found in most hive worlds. That is, of course, if quotas are met, order maintained, and their master's arcane pursuits are not disturbed. The following is but a snippet of what Forge Worlds look like within the Imperium of Man. Idume is a minor Forge World of the Adeptus Mechanicus, located in the Segmentum Obscurus, located near the edge of the Warp Rift, known as the Hazeroth Abyss, in the Calixis sector. Much of the early history of Idume is unknown, but presumably this world was discovered and colonized by early Mechanicum explorators, sometime during the Age of Strife or millennia later, during the era of the Great Crusade. This Calixian world has long been disadvantaged by its location on the edge of the Hazeroth Abyss and lack of strategic importance. The Forge Masters of Idume have for centuries considered themselves to be sidelined and undermined by the central authorities of the late system, a disaffection that the Fenanites have been quick to exploit. Much of Idume's upper echelons were hopelessly entrapped by the Fenanite conspiracy, corrupted by the offer of forbidden lore, and coerced through a concentrated program of targeted murders and sabotage. The Forge World itself now houses numerous secret facilities for the faction, as well as serving to provide a steady supply of manpower, experimental subjects, and a hidden port. The Fenanites have encountered a dangerous foe in the form of the Amaranthian Syndicate, a deadly mercenary alliance of far traders and smugglers who operate within the deeps of the Hazeroth Abyss. At first, they seemed to be an ideal target for the Fenanites' attention. However, as they moved against the group, it quickly became apparent that they had made a grave error. The Syndicate proved already to be the cat's paw of another darker force, more than able to take on and destroy the Fenanite agents with ease, rather than fight a war against a power whose nature and extent they do not fully understand. The Fenanites are now giving the Syndicate a wide berth wherever they can, until they can find out more. This reversal has placed them in an awkward position, and so now they must thread a tightrope of bringing other more legitimate inquisitorial authorities to bear on what is clearly a threat not only to them but to the sector itself, and do so without exposing their own true nature in the process. Ascalon is host to many Forge Worlds of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the greatest of which is Seracs Magnus. It exists in the Mechanicum's own empire that coexists within the sector. Despite this, Seracs, and to a lesser extent its sister Forge Worlds, Sylvanas Binary and Cor Theta, are as reliant on the sector as it is on them, for without raw materials from elsewhere, the forges would sputter and grow cold. Seracs Magnus must have been settled soon after the Ascalon's founding, for it has been populated by the servants of the machine god or their predecessors for as long as any record states. The world's ancient history is largely unknown outside of its own data repositories, and the master of Seracs Magnus refuses outsider access to their archives. It is assumed that the world was host to some engineer caste even before the Scions of Mars rose as a power during the earliest days of the Imperium. With the arrival of the Imperial expeditionary fleets and the Mechanica, it and its sister worlds were readily transformed to the control of the machine cult. Fragmentary records hint at an unnamed treachery during this period, but areas of the Three Forge Worlds archives have been deliberately sealed or even destroyed, and the truth may never be known. However, echoes of this terrible occurrence, whispered as the brass scouring, still ring across the millennia. Throughout the age of the Imperium, Seracs Magnus has led the Forge Worlds of the Ascalon, entering into a number of reciprocal arrangements with other factions, including several nearby knightly worlds. In return for the supply of weapons and other advanced materials they manufacture, the numerous other worlds serve what needs it cannot meet itself. These range from raw natural resources vital to manufacturing, to knights and other forces in time of armed conflict, to a supply of sinners to be converted into the many servitors each forge relies upon for its many tasks. Outsiders are not welcomed upon Seracs Magnus, nor indeed any Adeptus Mechanicus holding in the sector, but those who do have cause to visit the world report that it is hostile to most forms of non-augmented life. The atmosphere is thin, providing scant protection from the baleful radiation cast upon it by the system's bloated star, Seracs Trinus. So massive and bright is this star that Seracs Magnus is thought to have had its orbit altered at some point in the distant past, in order to survive the periodic storms emanating from its photosphere. The planet's surface is cast in a ghostly blue light by its star, which despite its great distance looms threateningly in the polluted sky. No oceans exist, and the world's mountain ranges have long since been hollowed out to form the core of its factory hives. The highest point on the surface is Assembly 010, a mountain hive rearing almost 20 kilometers into the atmosphere, its interior plunging so deep into the crust it is thought to penetrate the mantle below. Assembly 010 is the seat of the ruling council of Seracs Magnus, the Quorum Primus, a body that has absolute power over every servant of the Omnissiah on the planet, and has had nominal command over Sylvanus Binary, Core Theta, and many lesser Forge Worlds across the sector. Seracs Magnus produces a massive range of weapons and other advanced materials, but over the millennia have established itself in a number of specialized areas. It is perhaps best known for the superior technologies that rely on exotic field effects. These range from plasma containment systems to personal field projectors, but at the extremes include teleportation devices and Geller field systems based on venerated ancient templates. In addition to its primary function as a center of advanced manufacturing, Seracs Magnus sometimes serves as a layover point for the Adeptus Mechanicus explorator fleets that roam the sector and beyond in search for archaeotech and other treasures. Recent centuries have seen some stopovers grow even more perilous as the pandemonium becomes steadily more severe. Several binaric legends on Seracs Magnus cant that during the mythical scouring, an entire Forge World vanished from record, along with the blessed Adeptus Titanicus forces. Many Tech Priest questors are certain that somewhere, buried in the devastated waste of a lost world, lies an entire legion of the most formidable war machines ever to walk the battlefield of mankind's wars. Should these titans be discovered, this sector would surely tremble beneath their metallic feet. Stygies 8, also known as the Ever-Staring Cyclops, is an imperial forge world of the Adeptus Mechanicus that is located on the 7th and largest moon, orbiting a massive gas giant on the outer fringes of the Vulcanist system in the Segmentum Pacificus, perilously near the Eye of Terror. There is no forge world less trusted by the Imperium than Stygies 8. The forge world was once home to 2 Titan legions. While unusual for a single star system to support 2 Titan legions, it is far from unknown, as Mars itself supported 3. Stygies 8 was granted 2 legions due to its close proximity to the Eye of Terror, and the attendant risk of chaos attacks on its important forge world. Most of the Twin Legion's war engines were on crusade with the War Master Horus when the Horus Heresy began. In a series of bloody surprise attacks, a core of Chaos cultists back on Stygies 8 seized control of the Forge World's manufactorums. Reduced to a small group of loyalist tech priests, these valiant defenders protected the planet's Temple of Knowledge against the rogue cultists and their hastily improvised berserker machines they had produced. Trapped and on their own, the loyalists expected that death would eventually follow, but an unanticipated liberation came on the 31st solar day of the siege in the form of the graceful Eldar Titans and hundreds of jet-bike-mounted warriors of the Simhan craft world who smashed the servants of chaos. They had not come to help the Monkai, however. They were there to deny the forces of chaos such a strategically potent manufacturing world so close to the Eye of Terror. When the Horus Heresy finally ended, both the traitor Titan legions of Stygies 8 fled into exile within the massive warp rift. After that, the planet became home to a third loyalist Titan legion, the Legio Honorum, and the support of the Eldar led to the creation of a secretive sect within the Adeptus Mechanicus, known as Xenorites. The Xenorites are dedicated to the study and exploitation of alien technology, a policy which most tech priests find highly offensive. The Xenorites point to the intervention of the Eldari to assist the true followers of the Machine God as a sign that even they are subject to his will, and it is their sacred duty to study them. Aware of the hostility of their colleagues, the Xenorites pursued a policy of covert study, often dispatching cohorts of Scutari to garrison alien sites instead of bringing artifacts back to the Forge World for study as prescribed by the Mechanicus doctrines. It is not unusual for Xenorite expeditions to come under attack from alien populations, planetary garrisons, or even Scutari legions of other Forge Worlds. Open war with Imperial authority is not unknown. This regrettable occurrence has only served to drive the Xenorites deeper underground. Even with an official sanction, a secret war unfolds upon Stygies 8. Within its yawning reliquary halls, battles between Deathwatch kill teams and radical tech priests are still a disturbingly frequent occurrence. There are those amongst the Stygies priesthood who have taken their obsession with Xeno-war tech to another level entirely, breaching the ancient webway portals of the nearby sibling world of Vulcanus III, and taking entire war processions into the labyrinth dimension of the Eldari. They seek nothing less than to find the Black Library, plunder its boundless riches of knowledge, and return triumphant to Stygies 8, even if they have to cut their way through Eldarly Harlequins, Chaos Space Marines, or worse to achieve their goal. Currently, Stygies 8 is a production grade 2 extremis Forge World with a tithe grade of Optus Non, meaning it pays no tithes to the Administratum, as its industrial output is considered to be potent strategic value for the Imperium in and of itself. Stygies 8 produces everything from Astra Militarum infantry weapons and battle tanks to the mighty battle titans of the Collegia Titanica. The forged cities of Stygies 8 are the home of some of the best munition artisans in the Imperium, and they produce gun barrels, recoil dampeners, and propellant chemicals second only to Mars itself in quality. This Forge World is home to a device known as the Omnissiah's Hand. It is a gauntlet lined with a concealed array of digital lasers believed to be of Jakero origin. Such items might be tech heresy to the other Forge Worlds, but many tech adepts of Stygies 8 have become obsessed in their quest to replicate its technology. Thus far, their best efforts have been to no avail. When the armies of this Forge World march into war, they do so beneath stealth screening projectors and target befouling apparatuses. The tech priests of this Forge World deny owning such technology only reinforces their untrustworthy reputation. To prove that their faith in the Omnissiah is pure, their heraldry incorporates the colors of Mars, albeit redistributed. The bulk of Stygies 8 Scutari wear long, pitch-black robes of endless night, crimson armor plates, the sacred color of Mars, and burnished steel cybernetics. Should such a warrior shed his robe, he could also pass off as one of Mars' cohorts, a similarity Stygies has exploited many times. Likewise, the deep red of the Cult Mechanicus is proudly displayed on the armor plates of the Stygian Castellan-class robots and the tech priests who command them, with icon glyphs proudly picked out in white. The officers of the Stygies 8 fight at the front lines of the war for enlightenment, when their red, silver, and black heraldry is sighted near an excavation or quarantine zone. The treasures inside will be sieged in Stygies' name, no matter what it takes. The forces of Stygies 8 have had many run-ins with both Xeno, Heretic, and even friends. One such event occurred when the Scutari of the Forge World were sent to the ocean world of Magog, when the planet's industry dried up its ocean to reveal Necron tier architecture. The Scutari fought valiantly against the Necrons of the Awakened Tomb Complex, allowing the planet's islander people to evacuate to a man, but were badly outmatched. Only their commanding tech priests, hunting for knowledge behind enemy lines, escaped the ensuing carnage. However, in doing so, they clashed with a Necron overlord, Trazyn the Infinite. One by one, the tech priests were collected in stasis fields and displayed as part of a monument to Magog's fall. Deimos, also known as the Steel Forge, was once one of the 2 moons of Mars, which now serves as the major forge world for the Grey Knight Space Marines, the chamber militant of the Inquisition's Ordo Malleus. Long ago, upon the inception of this secret chapter, the Grey Knights made an alliance with the Adeptus Mechanicus, and as part of their bargain, were gifted with the forge world of Deimos. Tasked with directly combating the demonic threat, it was recognized that they would need their own forge world. Using arcane technologies, Deimos, one of the heavily industrialized moons of Mars, was stolen out of its orbit, dragged across the Sol system, and secretly relocated above Titan, the shrouded homeworld of the Grey Knights. It's mass mined and converted until it was more of a star fort than celestial body. The war needs of the Grey Knights call for a constant supply of ammunition and ordnance, and Deimos is blessed with a great many macroclans, all bearing the triple blessings of the Omnissiah. Deimos' armies are used as guardians, as procurement forces, and upon request, are sent to march forth into battle alongside the Grey Knights. Additionally, no fewer than 3 knightly houses are permanently stationed upon Deimos, including House Steel, whose vows of silence in service to the Adeptus Mechanicus have lasted since the Great Crusade. Since the relocation of this forge world from its position as a moon of Mars to the orbit above Titan, all weapons required by the Emperor's demon hunters have been produced by the Manufactura of Deimos. This includes standard Adeptus Astartes armaments, as well as all specialist gear required to combat warp-based foes, from side cannon ammunition to deadly psych-out grenades. Each item receives psychic wards atop the blessings of the Omnissiah to ensure protection against demonic taint. Only the Nemesis Force weaponry is created in the Citadel by the Grey Knights Tech Marines themselves. All other material is ferried down from Deimos in an endless stream of heavily guarded transports. Especially debilitated servitors oversee the packaging and transportation of everything destined for Titan, loading packages in utmost secrecy to ensure that no one, not even the tech magos of Deimos, know the extent of the Grey Knight's arsenal. The same servitors are then mind-wiped and their circuits scrubbed clear before their return to Deimos, lest the enemies of the Imperium were ever to dissect their shriveled brains. Such extreme measures ensure that the secret of the Grey Knights can never be learned by the tech priests, and conversely, that the psychic Grey Knights cannot themselves glean anything of the clandestine mysteries of the Adeptus Mechanicus. When the Martian moon was gifted to Titan by the Adeptus Mechanicus, it carried with it a void ship loaded with some of the finest weapons the Imperium has ever created. Among them was the Stormbolter, Fury of Deimos, a weapon crafted by the first Fabricator General of the Mechanicum, superior in range, accuracy, rate of fire, and reliability to a normal Stormbolter. It is a relic whose secrets have long been forgotten. And those were 40 facts on Forge Worlds. As you guys have requested, we did more compilation videos, make them longer so that you guys have more things to listen to as you paint. If you guys have suggestions for other topics of Warhammer 40K, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. If you're not supporting us yet on Patreon, you can. Link in the description. It's $1 a month. Just $1 a month. You probably pay more for a paintbrush. But that dollar goes a long way, so thank you guys ahead of time. Now, if you can't support us on Patreon, we understand. Simply by liking, commenting, and sharing, it helps out the channel. And again, comment down below if you guys have any suggestions. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Oh, I did the put my freedom first in any situation.